Why are we here? I don't know about you, but I'm here every morning determined to change the world and have a hell of a good time doing it. This makes planning the day a little difficult. I'm going to try to cover a fair amount of stuff. Some of it's tactical, some of it's strategic. Who am I? I am Christopher Allen. I'm an entrepreneur. In particular, lately, I've been doing iPhone and iPad development, but I'm probably best known for being the inventor of the SSL protocol, which is what you use every day when you're communicating on the internet, whether or not it's eBay or to your bank or to Amazon. That private communication is something that I helped create. I'm a privacy advocate, I'm a blogger, but most applicable for this conference, I'm an advisor, a coach, and an educator. I teach at Bainbridge Graduate Institute. Our mission is to change business for good. We offer an MBA in sustainable systems, which means we have to teach everything that a regular MBA needs to learn, but we also have to teach all of the additional things, triple bottom line, sustainability metrics, all the attributes and competencies that are required to lead our economic system towards sustainability. In particular, I teach using the social web for social change. It is the most popular elective class. What's really interesting about it is it cross cohorts. We have many different groups taking it at different times over the program. And it is also well known of having the greatest alumni participation. It's 4 years old. I've taught it 5 times, getting ready to teach it the 6th time this fall. So what is our objective? Learn how to use the latest social online tools, blogging, social networking, social video, all the different kinds of participatory media to affect social change. So, here we go. A graduate of our course, Brent, had this to say at the end. What an interesting journey this course has been. I was unfamiliar and apprehensive before entering this course, but I know I needed to understand that social media is going to be required for any social business endeavor. I fully appreciate the immense power held within social media and social networks for connecting and communicating, and will continue to harness that power when implementing change. I think you're seeing some of those skills that he has applied here in that conference. We have a very broad course outline, lots of different topics that we do over 12 weeks. My teaching philosophy is to practice and teach collaboration. This includes the skills of affinity, participation, engagement, community. My management philosophy as an entrepreneur is manage the environment, not the people. So that makes my teaching philosophy create an environment for learning. I teach my students perfection is the enemy of the good, ship early and often, fail fast. I teach them design and system thinking processes as they go through the course. As Jobs said, design is the fundamental soul of a human-made creation. And Peter Senge said, transcend the linear and there's possibilities of bringing vision to fruition. I'm a big believer in iteration. Many smaller iterations is better than a big one. I think you've seen that theme across a number of the sessions today and yesterday. And rapid feedback cycles are essential. I teach something called the flipped classroom, which means that I reserve that wonderful face-to-face time, that wonderful even synchronous time when we're both together in an online conference room. I reserve those for exercises, for action learning, to bring your actual experience as a student to the table, which means that lectures and non-interactive learning is moved to online services, such as videos, slide casts. Well, this presents a real problem. Well, I'll go to this. So, advice from a graduate, there's a lot more to this than just these skills of the social web. As a certified Luddite and social media neophyte, he learned a lot about that. But his greatest takeaways were ship early and often, fail hard and fail fast, prototyping, keeping iteration going. To me, these concepts embody a ground-up approach to learning, growing, and living. So this brings us to this experience. I'm a sage on the stage. This is not my preferred teaching environment. I would love to figure out how to do some kind of interaction with each and every one of you so that you can bring your skills to the table. And I hope that sometime in the future we'll have an opportunity to do that. But for now, I asked my students, like, what were the 4 most important things that they thought you might value from? And so to that end, I'm going to tell 3 truths and a lie. What is the most important about the social web is the connections and the conversations. To be successful on the social web, you have to be comfortable wielding digital influence. Facebook is a powerful social network because it embraces strong connections. And groups don't scale, they behave differently at every scale. One of these is a lie. See if you can figure out which one. So, what is most important about the social web are the connections and conversations. This is a truth. I don't teach social media marketing because it doesn't really embrace all that there is of the social web. Because I really feel like social media marketing is kind of the old Madison Avenue marketing techniques and approaches, and they're just trying to say, oh, this is just another medium. They're trying to turn it into another one-way broadcast thing. They're trying to go YouTube, oh, it's just another television channel. For social media to be effective, it must be two-way. It must be conversational. Now, what does that mean? So it means that they're personal. They're authentic, they're vibrant, and they're emergent, which means they're unpredictable. They're two-way. You have to listen and then respond. And because of that, they can't be controlled or organized without losing their value. I really like these rules of conversation. The purpose of a conversation is to create and improve understanding, not to deliver a message. There is no audience in a conversation, only partners. People in conversations don't repeat the same thing over and over again. Conversations are about listening and talking, not announcing. And conversations are live and constantly moving and changing. Truth number 2, to be successful on the social web, you have to be comfortable with wielding digital influence. So there are a lot of digital influence barriers. Probably the biggest one is being mindful about your online personal brand. There are a lot of things that keep you from being fully engaged, whether or not it's a concern about privacy or going, hey, I don't know what I have to offer. I'm a beginner. Well, there's huge value in open mind and good questions on the social web. Secondly, and this goes more to the social change, being comfortable with the tactics of influence and persuasion. A lot of people don't want to do that. They're uncomfortable with the idea of using these tactics. So what is personal brand? The concept basically is you're a CEO of your own company, your own business development. It's a process by which you market yourself to others, whether or not that's for a job or for an opportunity or just simply to persuade somebody in your organization to tackle a project that you care about. It's really what makes you unique, or more importantly, what is it that somebody remembers about you that is unique. And it's really how you make a difference and how you communicate that difference to the world. Why is this important? Because the first impression is unfortunately made in a very small amount of time, less than 30 seconds. And studies have shown that it can take 21 new interactions for that first impression to be pushed out and replaced with the reality. So it's important that you control it. Not your employer, not Google. It's important that your personal brand serve you. If you search in Google, do you find your name? If you search in your professional specialty, does your name come up? And is the knowledge you share considered to be authentic? So another barrier to effectively using the social web is an unwillingness to use these tactics of persuasion and influence. Typical concerns are that they're too pushy, or, oh, that's what marketing does. I feel like everybody needs to know some of these skills. I don't care if you're an engineer or you're a secretary, these are useful skills. In particular, I really like Robert Cialdini's work. He basically took hundreds of different influence techniques and narrowed them down to 6 basic ones that are powerful. Why are they powerful? Because they have an ethical quality to them. They're not to say that they can't be used unethically, but it's more difficult to use them unethically because they rely on your desire as someone being persuaded to conform more than my power over you as someone trying to persuade you. And also they require less energy from me, so that makes them very suitable for the social web. What are these tactics? Reciprocity. People feel obligated to repay in kind what they receive. Liking. People prefer to comply with requests and be persuaded by people that they know or that they like, or similarly, for whom they want to be like. People feel comfortable that when they see similar or like things in others and are more easily persuaded. Social proof. We decide what is correct by noticing what other people think is correct. We are raised to respect authority. Commitment and consistency. People don't like making choices. So once they've made even a small one, there is a commitment to continue. This is the old salesman thing where they, what color of car do you want? And you say blue, and now you're kind of going down a whole path of a purchasing decision. How do you choose between these different areas? If you're trying to form or improve a relationship, reciprocity and liking is a powerful tool. Dealing with unknown and uncertainty, being able to see what other people do, social proof, authority is good, and motivating for action, commitment and consistency, and scarcity are powerful tools. Truth number 3, Facebook is a powerful social network because it embraces your strong social connections. This is a lie. Facebook is not a social network. Facebook offers services to social networks. Now, what do I mean by that? It's a social networking service that wants to claim that they're your social network, but in fact, you own your social network. If Facebook were to close today, you still have social networks that exist. So I want to tell you a little bit more about social networks and the nature of them. So what is a social network? It's a web of people who directly or indirectly interact or influence one another. So why are they so powerful? It's these what they call network effects. Connections are exponential. One person connects to 4, which connects to 16. However, that hierarchy of connections is not at all intuitive. It doesn't really describe what happens. There's a lot of unusual effects that happen in a network. Every time one, say, high-level influencer is out there and gives a message, he may actually have been influenced by somebody who actually doesn't have a lot of influence. So you can have these messages that get passed from people who are not very influential to people who are influential in ways that are not intuitive. So even what we call a tier 3 person can have a strong influence. Social networks are fractal. This also means that the interactions between the social networks may not be obvious. People can be connected in many different ways. You can be connected through your youth group, you can be connected through your church choir, you can be connected through your business. So this leads to something, an important area. There's this thing called strong ties. So a strong tie is when you have a strong interpersonal connection, which can be because the amount of time you've spent with somebody, it can be that emotional intensity that you have with people, it can be the intimacy, it can be the reciprocity, you've shared things together. Those which are out there, you have a strong relationship, strong tie, have some of those properties. However, networks of only strong ties are not efficient or robust. So instead, we have what are known as weak ties. That what we've discovered is that weak ties is where a lot of information diffusion happens. So there are actual studies to show more jobs come from weak ties, more relationships come from weak ties, and one really interesting thing for what you're talking about is that weak ties make for stronger communities. Communities that have fundamentally just strong ties between their members tend not to be very cohesive. Communities that have lots of weak ties, it works. So weak ties are sometimes denounced as, bowling alone, alienation, whatever, but they're the key to communities. The reason why this is this way is your strong ties have the same friends, the same resources. They know the same things as you do. Your strong ties are vulnerable to groupthink or an echo chamber effect. Thus, in fact, the most valuable reason to maintain a network of strong ties is to have access to their weak ties. So, the real truth, number 3, Facebook is a powerful social network service because it aids you with your weak connections. Truth number 4, groups don't scale. They behave differently at every size. Dr. Robin Dunbar started writing about primates and group sizes of primates, and he discovered a very interesting thing, that there's this strong relationship between the size of the brain, in particular part of your brain, and the group size if you're a monkey or an ape. And basically, predicting that through, he goes, gosh, given the human brain size, that kind of says human groups should be about 150. And then went out and talked to sociologists who basically went, yeah, this number really kind of does seem to match up with, these tribes. It matches up with ancient military organizations. Even today, I have references, people to my papers on Dunbar number that talk about how it applies to terrorist organizations and mafia organizations today. So the reality today is that 150 is a large number. The number's been bandied around. If you've ever taken an MBA program, you've probably heard the Dunbar number 150. Reality is that in today's world, it's not all about survival. The group that you're in is not fundamental to that, so it's actually smaller. So doing some different research, what we've discovered is that kind of the optimum size of this particular, what you'd call a Dunbar number group today, is around 60 to 80. It's not 150. 150 means you're eating together, you're grooming together, you're sleeping together, you're doing everything together. There are some other interesting numbers that we're beginning to discover. One is called the Judas number. We have this particular problem where groups really begin to fail. You have this wonderful group of 7 people. It might be a small company. It might be a task group that's doing something. And then you add more people, and all of a sudden you kind of hit this number of group of people where like nothing's working. And of course you might blame it. Oh, we got the wrong people in. We might, we haven't done this right. We haven't organized it right. But in fact, it's a group dynamic issue. And there's this dip in efficiency and how groups work when you're in that range. So why does this happen? It's because of something called unstructured trust. So what is unstructured trust? It's that intuitive, unconscious trust. It's that emotional, intimate, often irrational trust. It's that monkey-ware for trust that's in you. Where does it begin? Well, any of you have been in a big city, there's this sort of situation, you're walking through town and there's no trust. Everybody has these little bubbles around them. But as you see more people, there's the familiar stranger. This is the situation where you see that same person at the cafe all the time, or you hang out in the park and that same couple is always there with their child. What happens once you have a certain threshold of familiarity, you're more willing to take a risk. And when you're willing to take that risk, you're willing to go and have a conversation for discovery. Like, hey, I notice you're here all the time for coffee. I'm here before I head off to class. Those conversations for discovery begin this very natural, normal way of beginning to build trust, which may ultimately lead to casual friends over time. Leads to something called the work group. And there are a lot of studies that show that 7 people plus or minus a couple is really a great group size for a committee. It's a great group size for a party. It just works. There's not a whole lot of hierarchy in it. But if you look at this picture, is there room for you in this? And that's where we begin to go up into the Judas number, where we begin to be more crowded, and leaders have to emerge, but then there aren't enough people for there to be leaders. That's where crowds begin to happen. That's where the Judas number happens. Ultimately, the mob and large groups of people means you have to have structured trust. Structured trust is what lets us break those Dunbar numbers of 80 or 150 people. It's less intuitive, which means you have to have it in the consciousness of your brain. It requires language. It requires logic. It results in rules and laws. But there's a consequence of this. Because it is not natural, because it is not intuitive, we have something called participation inequality, which is that not everybody participates at the same level. In particular, online, 90% of people in an online community lurk. They basically, the only thing that they do is watch. 9% contribute occasionally, 1% actively contribute. So that means 90% from 1% of the users. This is a normal thing, and you have to understand participation inequality both in the online form and also how it applies in your work. So you can do energy to get over it. There are different techniques that you can use to overcome these problems. And that's one of the things I really want to impress with you. So I shared with you 4 truths that my students said might be valuable to you. Obviously, these are very abbreviated forms of these 4 truths. I have slide casts, which are about half an hour to 45 minutes on each of these topics. All are at slideshare.net/Christopher A. if you want to hear the whole lecture on all of these. And I think that's it. Thank you.